You're in the market for a new desktop processor, but you're not sure which is the best processor for you. Read on must read. It turns out the iPad was just too expensive after all. Before we go any further, I feel the need to point something out. There are a lot of processors out there, and the market is rapidly changing, so it's impossible for me to tell you the exact processor you need. All I can do is offer pointers and guidance based on your needs. Let's break down the market into 4 segments. Budget. This territory is a fight between AMD's Ryzen 3 and Intel's Core i3 chips. Right now my recommendation goes to AMD and the Ryzen 3 chips. The budget segment. You can pick up a Ryzen 3 1200 for $110. For that price you get quad-core 4 threads, an unlocked multiplier for overclocking, and a fantastic cooler. And if you don't feel the Ryzen 3 1200 offers enough power, then for an extra $20 you can have the Ryzen 3 1300X, which has a faster clock speed and boost. And on top of that, all AMD Ryzen chips are ready, which gives you them future-proofing. If you are on an ultra-low budget, then an Intel chip such as the Pentium G4 400 or G4 560, which retail for around $55 and $79 respectively, are worth considering. Mainstream. At this price point we're looking at AMD's Ryzen 5 squaring up against Intel's Core i5 Silicon. While the mainstream is currently dominated by Intel Core i5 chips, many of Intel's offerings in this bracket don't have hyperthreading, which means you get 1 thread per core, as opposed to AMD's Ryzen offering, which all offer 2 threads per core. If you're confused by threads, just think more threads better. This means that a chip such as the quad-core 8 threads Ryzen 1500X priced to $189 a better choice than the similarly priced Intel Core i5 6400, which doesn't have hyperthreading. At the higher end of the mainstream market, again, AMD's 6-core 12-thread Ryzen 5 1600X stands head and shoulders above anything that Intel has to offer in the same price range, although at $249 cheaper if you shop around. It's at the very high end of mainstream. AMD Ryzen 5C full gallery high-end. This battleground is between AMD's Ryzen 7 and Intel's Core i7 Silicon. From a performance per dollar perspective, the Ryzen 7 Silicon wins hands down, with the top-end 8-core 16 threads AMD Ryzen 7 1800X retailing for only $499, compared to the 8-core 16 threads Intel Core i7 7820X, which retails for $599. The smart in money buys AMD Silicon. But if performance is the ultimate deciding factor, then you're better off going for the i7 7820X. The differences aren't enormous, and vary depending on what benchmarking tool, game, or applications you're using, but the raw power advantage goes to Intel here. But you're paying dearly for that slight advantage. Build a high-performance AMD Ryzen 7 PCC full gallery extreme high-end. We're now at the point where the question isn't how fast you want your PC to be, but how fast you want to spend money. Here the battle lines are drawn between AMD's Ryzen Threadripper and Intel's Core i9. Specifically, the Ryzen Threadripper 1950X and Intel's Core i9 7900X, although there's an upcoming Core i9 7920X that's been making cameo appearances in benchmarks. Either path you take, you're looking at a lot of money here. The 16-core 32-thread Ryzen Threadripper 1950X costs $1,000, with the 10-core 20-thread Core i9 7900X costing $1,030. Which one is best? Well, it's hard to tell. While benchmarking and testing seems to suggest that the Core i9 7900X wins in terms of raw horsepower, the Ryzen Threadripper 1950X has faster multi-core and overclocking performance. If I were spending $1,000 of my hard-earned cash on a processor, my money would be buying a Ryzen Threadripper 1950X because of the faster multi-core performance, and because it seems to offer more in the way of overclocking. That said, at this sort of price point, whichever processor you chose, the bottleneck is not going to be the CPU. iPhone 8. What we think we know. See full gallery. See also